Welcome back. I hope everybody had a great holiday, enjoying kind of an extended holiday a little bit with Monday being a holiday, half the week being taken over by snow days. I'm sure everybody's been enjoying time with their kids, hopefully, and trying to get a little bit of work done. I have been. Um, I wanted to get back. We've been talking a lot about CRMs and stuff over the last couple of months with our masterminds. Wanted to get back to talking more about things that will help you in your business and have better conversations with your clients and put you in a better position to help them. And this is a topic we've touched on in the past, but wanted to dive into it a little bit more and just kind of more than I've got some talking points to go through, but I'd really like for it to be more of a conversation where you guys share examples. To really, our topic today is about the power of language and assuming the close, and how the way the words that you use can impact your business and help you be more successful as an agent, but also at the end of the day, to help your clients achieve their goals too. You want to make sure you're not getting in your own way with some of this stuff, and that does happen time to time because of the language we use. So just like everything, starting with being mindful of what you're saying and how you say it. And so I'm going to share my screen here so you guys can see kind of what I've come up with and we can talk through it. And like I said, feel free to stop me or jump in, offer your thoughts and opinions as I start going through this. But really thinking about, um, the power of your language, like I said, and assuming the close. Um, just starting out with, words can shape perception, and a lot of these are kind of explanation and examples. So, clients take clues, as we've talked about before, from your tone and your phrasing, and clients will mirror your activity, right? So if you're negative, your clients are going to be negative. If you're put in a tough situation and you're freaking out about it, your clients are going to pick up on that energy and freak out about it too. It's your job. The reason they came to you is because you're supposed to be the professional and guide the ship. And if you let it devolve because you can't control your emotions, you're doing your client a disservice. So you have to think about that and be in control of how you feel. Now, if you want to talk to another agent on the team, if you want to talk to me, if you want to talk to your spouse about what a shit show it is, that's fine. But you can't devolve into that with your client. All right. So just be thinking about that. The other side of the coin is positive and assertive language will build confidence in you, as their advisor. So some examples of how you can use positive um, language to help them achieve their goals. Instead of saying this might be a good neighborhood for you, say this is one of the top neighborhoods for families looking for, nearby resources and community amenities. You know, pointing out the things that they've said are important to them and what they've stated as goals that they're looking for. Instead of saying, we can try to negotiate, say something like, well, looking at the data, I'm confident we can negotiate for you, and then help them understand why, right? Another part of that mirroring is you can use mirroring to help yourself and also help your clients. So make sure you're communicating with them in a manner that shows you understand their communication style. If somebody has proven that they only want to text you, don't pick up the phone and call them. Now, there are situations where you got to talk to people, right? Of course, I get that. But don't try to force somebody into your box. Your job is to fit into theirs. You're the service provider here, right? They're not here to fit your box. All right. So tailoring your language to match your client's communication style, it creates rapport and it shows that you're looking at things and understanding their perspective, right? So some ways that you can practice this is, role play with your spouse or another agent on the team. But, a detail oriented buyer, someone like Brandon, might say, our way to communicate with them. This home has energy efficient windows, new roof installed in 2021, and a recently updated HVAC system. Someone who's more emotional, less detail oriented, the best way to talk to them might be, well, this home offers a warm and inviting atmosphere, perfect for making lasting memories, great entertainment space, free flowing. You can see your kids while you're making dinner. something like that. Understanding how people want to communicate and what's important to them is really important. If you talk to all of your clients the same way, you're doing them a disservice. You have to tailor your approach in a way that's going to resonate best with your client. And the only way to figure that out is to listen and understand and ask as well. You know, nothing wrong with asking too. How do you prefer to communicate? And then just listen to how they talk to each other, right? I love that because if a couple starts joking around with each other, then I can banter a little bit too and have fun with it. But if they're very serious, you know, I'm going to kind of follow that role until I see a way to interject, or if it changes at all, or at least until they get warmed up. My clients that I closed last week, different cultural background, completely understandable that, you know, we don't all have the same things in common. Nothing wrong with that, different communication style. A little closed off, probably one of the best reviews I've ever gotten, and felt really good because he basically said professional all the way through, type of person the relationship will go on long after closing.
That's great.
And I mean, you know, his family was certainly nice, but I didn't always feel that way when I was with them. You know what I mean? But you never know how other people are feeling. So make sure that you try your best to understand, and you never know what might happen good.
I don't know, Doug, if you've experienced this, and maybe Janine as well, or people that have been in the business for a long time. It's not uncommon for your best reviews to be from the clients that you perceive as the most difficult.
Yeah, that's
You know,
fair.
sometimes you just have different communication styles, but they appreciate the effort, you know.
That's a good point, Brandon. Thanks for sharing that. um, Frame problems as solutions. Um, I was taught to stay solution focused. We're problem solvers, right? Problems are going to happen. If there aren't problems, you're out of a job. Our job is to solve problems. So relish the opportunity to show your value and help people understand what you're getting paid for. In an industry where people think we're grossly overpaid, right? Seize that opportunity to show your value, right? So even perceived negatives can be reframed positively. This home needs a lot of repairs. The home's a blank canvas. You know, put your spin on it. Yard's small. Hey, it's low maintenance. Yeah, it's a small yard, but you said you didn't want a lot of upkeep. You know, help people remind people of what they've told you is important to them. Now, you don't want to be over the top about this stuff, right? But hopefully everybody knows we're talking about things within reason. I really thought that this was kind of a good point. Rule of three: emphasizing a point three times in different ways helps clients retain the information and builds confidence in your recommendation. So, when highlighting a home's benefits, for example, open floor plan is great for entertaining. Flow between the kitchen and the living room makes hosting seamless. You'll love having friends and family in this space. So, reinforcing a positive aspect three times. Reinforcement is good. People are distracted. You're looking at multiple homes. You're handing them disclosures to look at. They've got the kids picking out their bedrooms. My favorite is when the spouses don't even stay in the same room and just do like this. And you're like, hold on. Don't you guys want to walk through the house together and talk about it at once? That's when you have to figure out, okay, who's the decision maker? Because that's who I'm following.
Mm-hmm.
So it can be tricky. But again, to make sure that you're pointing that stuff out, because people miss things, right? They're caught up in the moment. They're excited. They're already thinking about what they're going to do. Make sure that you reinforce the positive things, point out things that need attention, point out things that they said were important to them, or maybe something that was missing, things like that, etc. That's your job. Active listening and mirroring. We talked about mirroring a little bit. So people like to feel heard. Use their own words back to them to show them that you understand them and that you're aligned with what their priorities are, right? As an example, I need a big backyard for my kids. This backyard has plenty of space for your kids. You said that was important. Didn't you also say you have dogs? Yard's already fenced, something like that. Feel free to jump in. Anybody got any examples of how they use mirroring and things like that successfully?
I think a lot of it's repeating back what people say, especially in the initial conversations, when you're trying to win the client and get in front of them.
Well, I think mirroring also means that you heard them. They don't always know that you heard them until you can. Yep. Are you listening? You might be hearing them until you say it back. They don't really computer. It doesn't register.
It also
Often.
helps you remember, right? If you're
Yeah.
having an initial conversation with someone, and as you're prospecting, you're putting your notes in sync, and you say, okay, so you live in Texas now. Are you from Texas? Okay, and what's bringing you to North Carolina? Oh, so your husband's family is there. If you're repeating this back, you're acknowledging that you're actively listening and not just thinking of the next thing you want to say. But it also gives you a chance to remember it and take that note. And so those are all helpful ways to build that relationship.
All good points.
Absolutely.
It also allows you to carry on a conversation with them because that will get them talking more when you're giving back what they're giving to you. And it gives them the opportunity to expand upon why that's important to them in some situations, right? So, all right, talking a little bit more about the power of being positive and proactive, okay? Like we talked about before, your attitude is contagious, a negative one and a positive one. So steer the ship. A positive and proactive attitude is contagious. When you exude confidence, enthusiasm, clients are more likely to feel the same way, act the same way. Positivity minimizes doubts and creates forward moving energy. And I like that phrase, forward moving energy. We're here to take action, right? Go ahead, Janine.
No, that's okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I would say that's super good advice, but there's also this very fine line where if there is an important situation or a concern, you can't just sugarcoat it. You need to present the fact. And I had a hard time with this. It's like, oh God, when I was first starting, like keeping the emotions out of it, figuring out, like you were saying, be solution minded. Like, okay, here's a concern, ABC, 1, 2, 3. These are your options. What do you want to do? And just presenting it in the most positive manner that you can without, like, yes, always present yourself in a positive manner, especially for the entire situation. Things can get tricky, but you also have to be careful. Like, yeah, I mean, this is a real concern. You can't just sugarcoat something that is a legit concern.
100%.
Yep.
The thing is, when you present a problem, you have to be in a position to present solutions.
That's right.
If you're just presenting the problem and you're like, well, then you're not doing anything constructive or helping your client.
And I remember you would always
Obviously,
tell me,
we
it's like,
wouldn't not present a problem. You have to do that. But your job is all of our job is to be prepared to say how we're going to deal with it or present options for how we deal with
that's
it.
exactly, yeah. And I remember you would always tell me, okay, there's a problem. They can do A, B, or C. It's their decision.
Right. Kind of like we talked about a little bit earlier. It's okay, we do have a problem, but that's an opportunity to show your value and show how you're helping them accomplish their goals, right? Whether it's, hey, we punt on this one because we don't want to deal with it, but you've earned their trust by pointing it out at this point in the process, or you've earned their trust and provided value by saying, yeah, this is an issue, but I know what we can do, or I know how we can approach it.
By the way, when you have a problem, the longer you wait to make the phone call and have that conversation, the problem doesn't get easier to solve. You're making it more
Oh my
difficult
gosh, that's
for
so
your
true.
client and the other party.
Hmm.
So if you get bad news from
Immediate.
you get bad news from an inspection, if you get bad news from an appraisal, and you say, well, I've got a lot going on, I'll talk to my client tomorrow, or, I'm not really sure how to handle this. Let me think on it for 48 hours. You need to step it up. You're making things worse.
Because they're waiting on you.
Yeah. And so, think about it, if you blindside another agent or another agent gets blindsided, that's a problem, but you're also wasting valuable time to find a solution to a problem.
Hmm.
Yeah, I'd
There's
only
a
ever
quote.
hesitate. Sorry, I'd only ever hesitate if I didn't have any solution to present. I'd scramble, find some solutions, and then reach out. But yeah, that would be immediate and with expediency.
And there's nothing wrong with telling your client, I don't have an answer for this right now. Uh, let's take some time to think about this and figure out our best plan of attack or our options. But if your reaction to getting bad news is, well, I'm just going to sit tight on this, if you take that strategy and then your client is like, well, when did you find out about this? Or the other agent is, I'm dealing with this right now with an offer. I was expecting this 3 days ago. What is taking you so long, right? We're losing time. That's not the right way to go about it.
I've had lots of conversations over the years with folks, in my closing position, being able to, before a contract, especially up front, before, like now that I'm in the sales role, but utilizing and easing their minds if there is a problem or something that needs to be addressed. We have a team of people that we work with, and we have resources. This is not just me. We are able to reach out and tap into all of this. So, make sure that you're using that also.
100%. I definitely, want to just reiterate about getting out ahead of things. And it's okay to say I don't have a solution at the moment, but I'm working on it. Okay. And I've got a lot of resources that I can go to get the best answer. So just trust that I'm working on it. But I wanted to let you know as soon as possible in case, there's anything they could do on their end, depending on who you're talking to, whether it's the listing agent, if you're working with a buyer, or it's the lender, if you're working with a buyer. There are different situations that coming up, but it's best to communicate, right? Don't sit on stuff.
I mean, at the end of the day, both sides are all wanting to achieve the exact same goal. So
That's
there's
right.
no reason why you can't work together in a timely fashion.
Right. Mark, I'm going to use your recent scenario as an example for everyone. Mark's client's buying a condo. Something came up on the condo disclosure. Lender said, we can't do this. Yeah, that sucks. We know that happens with condos sometimes. But here's the thing. Instead of, just letting it all fall apart and wallowing in it, Mark stayed solution focused. He reached out to another lender. He also reached out to the agent to say, hey, look, we just heard this back and I'm looking at other options, but you might be able to help us out too with the HOA. And the agent was like, I'll do anything I can to help, because why? The agent doesn't want to start all over.
Yep.
And sometimes we forget that. And sometimes agents have the impression that the other agent, for whatever reason, is working against them, right? When, to Janine's point, at the end of the day, they want to close as bad as you do,
Yep.
right? Because
And keep in mind,
they
they're going
want
to
their
remember.
client to achieve their goal. They
Yep.
want their client to be happy with them. They want to get paid. None of that happens if it doesn't close, right?
Yeah.
So
And they're gonna
everybody needs to be solution focused. And in those instances where, especially in the moment when we first get the bad news or the challenging news or we have a new problem, it's easy to feel like, well, they're working against us or somebody's working against us or this isn't really fair. Versus why it's natural to feel that way, you got to put that personal feeling aside
Mhm.
and remember it's not about us and not internalize it. What am I going to do to help my client achieve their goal?
Yeah.
So my client didn't waste their money.
And at the end of the day, that agent is going to remember how you went out of your way to help them, because let's be honest, probably going to work with them down the road again.
That's really important to remember too. You don't want to be burning bridges because a deal went sideways, because none of us are operating in a vacuum here.
Well, I mean, I was going to put in a couple points, but then I remembered another. I mean, before we had this problem, I was always, made her very important. The listing agent, she knew if she reached out, I'd immediately respond if I couldn't that second, and was always, overly helpful and always like, yep, and very transparent. So I think before that even happened, we had a good relationship, which was good. But I think that also happened because I think she was once with Oceanair.
Oh, really? Okay. Well,
Yeah.
that's good too.
Yeah.
Know what we're getting. Known commodity.
Right.
So let's get back to a couple of these points. So talking about some of these key strategies, using phrases that project confidence and optimism about the next step. So instead of saying, let me know if you'd like to move forward, say, let's set up the next step to keep things moving forward. Very subtle difference, but you're not just saying, okay, well, call me. You're driving the ship. That's why they wanted you in the first place, to drive the ship. Instead of this could be a good fit, help them see why the home aligns perfectly with their goals based on what they've told you, mirroring, rephrasing back to them the things they've said to you already. Another, to build on our conversation, reframing concerns positively. Concern, I'm worried about buying in a competitive market. Response, the market gives you the opportunity to invest in property that can grow in value over time. Or, what's your alternative? Continuing to rent? We can look at why that may or may not make the most sense for you given your long and short-term goals, right? Focus on solutions, like we said. Position every challenge as a solvable issue. If we act quickly, we can create a competitive offer that gets you the home you love. Or, I've been in a situation like this. I've got a few ideas how we can solve the problem, right? Don't forget too, if it's a known issue going in to a property that your clients want to make an offer on, there's always the additional provisions addendum, basically asking for something to be done as a term of the offer itself. So it's not something you negotiate during the due diligence period. If there's something on that disclosure, or you see something flat out at the showing, utilize that. Ask about it, utilize it. Okay. That's a way to be proactive and get ahead of something that looks like a problem today. But hey, we can ask them to address it as part of the offer.
But don't you have to be careful with that? Because then that goes to the lender, and if they see that it's an issue, then it can flag the whole thing.
I mean, maybe if it's a VA loan, but a VA loan is going to do an inspection and it's going to come up on the inspection anyways.
Okay.
So, I mean, it's better to do it up front. I'd rather you not get under contract and then not be able to get it worked out. If it's under contract and it falls apart because it can't be done, well, then your folks are entitled to a refund of their due diligence and earnest money because the seller's not performing.
Yep.
I think it's okay to do that. Let's see.
May I add one thing?
Please.
I didn't do this in the beginning, but now every time we have a good long chat or if we meet, of course, I always give homework. I always give them something they're supposed to do. And I always tell them something that I'm going to do. So there's always the back and forth. So you always have something they are wanting to reach out about. It's not like, oh, maybe in a week or two, you have already a set thing. And then I just try and keep it stringing along, always attached to something so that you don't ever have a open-ended kind of, oh yeah, we'll see if you find anything, get back to it. I never do that. Not anymore, at least. So there's always a point where we're going to reach back out to each other. I never leave it open-ended.
I think that's great, Mark. I employ something similar, especially with people that I'm actually in front of. I'll say, just to recap, these are my actionable items and my next steps, and these are yours. So I'll let you know when I'll text you when I send the documents over, or I'll text you when I send the intro email to the lender. And then you're going to text me after you've talked to the lender, or text me after you've looked at the home search that I set up and let me know which ones you want to see next. Something like that. I think homework is always important. It establishes that you're moving forward, which we mentioned earlier in this, instead of staying stagnant. It's also you being proactive instead of saying, hey, let me know when. It's, hey, I'm doing this for you. I'm actively working for you. And because you want to accomplish a goal, these are the next things you need to do to get ready. I think that's great. Thanks for sharing that. It's
Sure.
cool when you hear other people doing similar things that you do, even though you've never really talked about it before, right? I think it is. All right, let's see. Examples of proactive positivity and actions. Congratulations, you've already taken the biggest step by reaching out. Now we'll make the rest of the process seamless. Or, it's fantastic time to make your move. I'm here to help guide you every step of the way. So that's about really being positive as part of the process, as part of their search. This assuming the close thing is about assuming the business relationship and using the type of language that says, we're working together. I'm your agent. I'm already working for you. Things of that nature. So it's not a, hey, well, think about it. And if you want to work together, I'll send over the agreement or whatever. Obviously, it's different if you're showing homes with them already. But try using this language if you're not and see what an impact, what a difference it makes. And when we talk about setting our goals and we look at, you're only closing 50% of the clients that you meet with in person versus wanting that to be 70, 80, 90%. Little changes like this will make the difference. Because of them, instead of them seeing you as an option, they see you as the only option. And you can turn that just by the way you talk. So what's assuming the close? Mindset shift from if they'll buy to when they'll buy, right? You're guiding your clients naturally by just using the language. And again, that's why they go to a professional to help guide them towards the goals that they've set. Not our goals for them, it's their own goals. So clients want direction. Like I just said, assuming the close removes the burden of their indecision, right? We're all unburdened by the indecision. Subtle, assumptive phrases, all right? Using these phrases to keep momentum going. Let's go ahead and lock in a time for the showing. When you're ready to make an offer, after we schedule the inspection, think about how you guys have or can use additional phrases like this to different scenarios. And I think that really talks about what, Mark and I were just talking about, those leading forward, moving forward phrases, the homework, the next steps, etc. Anybody else have any other examples they want to share? Okay, that's fine. Leading questions to guide decisions. Some other examples. What do you want to close by the end of the month or sooner? You want to see this home again this week, or are you ready to move forward with an offer? Are you planning to do a 30-year mortgage or 15? Not as relevant for us, but another example. Do you want to close so you can move before your lease is over, so you don't have to move on a weekend? Things like that. Do you want to make sure that you're in place before school starts or the holidays start, etc.? Okay. Creating a sense of ownership, helping clients mentally place themselves in the property. Examples. Where would you place your sofa in the living room? The dining room is perfect for holiday dinners. How would you decorate it? Especially at the coast, when you get a chance, you should be using this one. Imagine wake up to this view every morning. Right? Helping them see themselves there. And again, our goal is to sometimes help people see what they can't see on their own. We all have had clients who they don't need our help at all doing that, right? They can picture things, they can imagine things, they see it all. But the flip side of that coin is sometimes people have very limited vision and can't picture anything. And especially if you're maybe showing a house that's vacant, right? And how it can help them see options for different spaces and how you might be able to use that or how they might be able to use that.
I take that a little bit further usually. So it's like, where would you place your sofa in this living room? I say, can't you see yourself on your sofa with that sunshine in the morning hitting your face right there? I wanted to say yes.
Yeah. Can you see yourself in there? And hey, and if they answer no, that can be a good thing too.
Yeah. Well,
let's get out of here.
I'm looking for. Yeah. Only questions with yes is answered generally is what I ask.
I like to ask, where would you put your Christmas tree?
That's a good one.
That is a good one.
Sometimes there'll be an odd space and I'll say, well, what would you do with this room? Or if the kids are there, I'll say, which bedroom's going to be yours? Those are fun conversations to have. I love the closet joke, right? Where's his clothes going to go? Right? You know, just to lighten it up, have a little bit of fun with it, whatever. Okay. Overcoming objections assumptively. Objection. I'm not sure about the location. Okay. This area has the X, Y, and Z you mentioned were priorities for your next home. What are we missing? You know, what are you unsure about? Objection. The price feels high. That's understandable. Let's look at the comps together to see what the data is telling us. Right? That's why it's important that you bring that so you can have that discussion there. Because as we've talked about before, if you don't have it there, then you've got no way to shift it. And it's just going to keep digging into their brain. Bring the comps, show the comps, have the comps. I don't care how many houses you're showing. If you're out there with somebody under agency, which you should be, if you're showing houses, you need to have that data to set the expectation then and there. Because if you're not, you're missing the opportunity to redirect someone who might be off base.
And also they have it in front of them when they call you later to discuss terms or say no.
That's right. That's right. I think that's one of the biggest misses for a lot of people is they don't bring the comps. And you're missing the opportunity to set the right expectation then and there based on the data instead of letting somebody float around based on, you know, their perception of the market. Okay. Body language. Body language is also important. It complements your language, right? Pair your words with open body language to reinforce confidence. You don't want to be closed off to your clients. It sends a bad signal. You want to make sure that you're looking at them when you're talking to them, right? Maintain eye contact. That shows trust, right? Lack of eye contact can be misconstrued as mistrust, right? Nod slightly,
100%.
speaking, you know, moving forward. Show that you can show with your body language that you're invested in what they're saying and that you understand what they're saying, right? Use language to formalize the working relationship. Assuming the client will work with you builds confidence and eliminates unnecessary barriers. Approach conversations, have the mindset that you're already their partner, that you're already working for them. Some key phrases. When we start working together, the first thing we'll do is, as your agent, my goal is to, let's go ahead and formalize our partnership so I can start preparing your game plan. We'll start by signing the agreement and then I'll immediately get to work. Proactive steps, suggesting scheduling the next step in real time. Again, going back to what we talked about earlier. Let's set up a time to go over the paperwork together this week so we can hit the ground running. Using assumptive language. Once we're officially working together, I'll prioritize finding properties, right? Examples of overcoming the hesitation to formalize a relationship. You know, they're concerned, I'm not ready to commit to an agent yet. That's okay. Let's take care of the formalities now so when you're ready to act, I can move quickly on your behalf. So sharing the information with them so they're ready. Concern, I'm talking to a few other agents. That's great. Don't use that as a way to close them off. Use them as a way to show your confidence in yourself. You know, I understand it's a big decision. Let me help you understand why I'm the best agent for you. What other language do you use to lock in the relationship?
Well, if they're speaking to other agents, I'll say, well, I don't, I'm not mean and I don't make you lock yourself into me. I make a very short agreement to start just so we don't get fined if we do showings. And then we have a chat. If you get along with me, then we extend. If not, you walk away. It costs you nothing and a few days of your time. And so generally they feel like there's no risk. And once they sign, those are the statistics. If they sign with someone, generally that's the one they stick with.
That's right.
So I found that it's just like, okay, every time. There's never been ever a hesitation. Not once.
I saw a lady present a couple of days ago, and I thought her presentation was brilliant. A lot of times real estate agents say stuff that we think sounds good, and we don't really do a good job of thinking about how it's perceived on the other end, right? So Here's why you should work with me. I'm the top producer at my brokerage. I'm in the top 1% of my market. I do X number of deals a year. And so she had a bunch of people stand up, like 4 people stand up and give her their 30 second elevator pitch on why you should list your house with me. And every single thing that they said, every reason they gave, she immediately said, so what? So what? Why do I care? So what? And the point that she was making is clients want to know, especially sellers, how are you going to make me the most money? How are you going to make this as easy as possible? How are you going to save me time? How are you going to position me to be successful in the market that we're in? And what they're hearing when we say those things is, I make a lot of money. They don't care how much money we make. They don't care how many deals we're doing. In fact, we may be making more money than they think is appropriate. And so that's a good excuse for them to try to negotiate down or expect us to do it for less, right? And so what she thought was the workaround, and I think this is actually brilliant, is I sell X number of homes a year. What that means for you is that's the key plug to get your point across. Here's what this means for you. I have the connections to help your house get ready for market, right? To stand out. I have a stager, I have a handyman, I have a general contractor to do all the repairs. I have relationships with a bunch of other agents. I work with buyers and sellers, so I know what buyers are looking for in this market. I have lender resources. I have attorney. You see where I'm going with this, right? But couch everything is, hey, I'm really good and I'm making a lot of money. And so by default, don't you want to be affiliated with someone like that? No, I don't. Here's what this means for you. And I think that that's going to be really helpful. I'm going to implement that immediately.
I like
Nice.
that. I don't think I've ever told anyone, hey, look, I'm a top producer. I've sold X amount of homes. I tell people my mission is to give you the guidance and knowledge you need so you feel really comfortable and confident about the decision you're making. That's a several $100,000 decision. And I want to get to know you and understand what's important to you and help make sure that there are no gaps in your understanding of the process.
Mhm.
I never talk about how many homes I've sold or anything like that because I agree. I don't think people care. And I like to think that
Yeah.
that's what I would have said if I was at that conference and they asked me up there. I really believe it is what I would have said. I would have gone to the mission.
Yeah, I love that.
I love
I
that,
changed it
what
too.
that means to you, right? What that means to you is you can use that, it can be applied so many times in so many ways.
You can use it for
And
every single thing.
absolutely. It's actually, there's an art around it called insightful selling. And there's a couple of books that I used to work with my team reading, and it just brought to life that whole and what that means to you, and being insightful versus boastful, right? Because you're absolutely right. It comes off as being boastful versus being, we think it's being helpful and putting us in a better position. If I come across the titles of those books, I'll definitely shoot them out to everyone.
That would be great. Thanks, Ellen. Another thing to think about as maybe we don't understand how what we say is perceived, it could also be perceived that, all right, this person is really busy. Are they going to hand me off to an assistant and I'm never going to talk to them after we get under contract? Or are they going to pick up the phone or answer when I call them? Oh, they're so busy. Well, do you have enough time for me if you're so busy? And we might not think that, or the top producer or whoever might not think that, but I guarantee you, at some point, some buyer or seller who's been given that line has had that thought. They're going to be too busy.
Mm.
I think it's good to sometimes start. Now, obviously, it's not every single person because they're all different, but I always try to say, especially if I'm meeting them for the first time, if I don't know them from Adam, or if I know they're interviewing other agents on the buy or sell side, what are you looking for in a real estate agent? I want to know what they're looking for, and then you can expand on that about how you can achieve those goals for them, because it's really important, because not every, some it's about the money, some it's about communication, some it's, I mean, I lost a listing that I got the vibe when I went there and I was like, this is a really good listing. They were referred to me by a past client of mine. They're backdoor neighbors. And I knew that this guy, the only thing he cared about was the bottom line. and there's plenty of fish in the sea. He specifically asked me how long I've been doing this. He specifically asked me if I had sold in that neighborhood. I hadn't listed any in that neighborhood before. And so, you know, nothing's hurt. Like at the end of the day, you're not going to be a good fit for every person out there, right? And so you just have to sell yourself the best way that you can. And hopefully that aligns with their goals.
I think that's also a great opportunity in that you should be asking, well, have you bought or sold before? What was good or bad about that process?
Yep.
What expectations did you have that weren't met, or what went really well? And of
Because
course,
if
if
they're
they haven't bought or sold before, I love working with first time buyers or sellers because then I can really provide
Same.
value and really get into the process, right? I mean, it's a different animal, but asking the question, you should always ask the question, and then you can pivot to the right conversation after that.
Yeah, I mean, I always hate hearing bad experiences that people had. You know, the majority of the people, hopefully, that buy are going to use you again to turn around and sell, unless they had a terrible experience. And obviously, we don't ever want to be that agent that can't earn repeat business from our clients. And we've all been there. We've all been there. We've all had that experience, but take it as a learning opportunity. Okay, well, what was so shitty about their experience, so that you can make sure that you can explain to them how you're going to overcome that in the event that it happens again, and why working with you that doesn't happen or won't happen.
100%. Well said, Janine. I'm sorry that you dealt with this. Let me tell you how I like to communicate. Is that what you're looking for? You know, et cetera. I don't feel like I was given enough data. I don't feel like I understood the process.
Yeah.
Let me show you how I like to start out with my clients by going through our strategy guide.
Yeah.
To kind of touch on every step of the process. Because again, my mission is to make sure you're comfortable and confident, right? So great point. All right, so some things you can do to work on this, because it's just like, you're not just going to show up and do it. No matter how good you think you are at it, you're not just going to show up and do it. You're going to be distracted. You're going to be thinking about picking your kids up from school, or you didn't take the chicken out to thaw for dinner tonight, or I got to get gas, or I got to get to this next appointment, or my phone is buzzing in my pocket, and you're going to get distracted. So you have to come in with a game plan and be prepared, and you can't just wing this stuff, folks. Eventually, you'll look like you're winging it because you'll get so good at it, but you have to be mindful. So practice it. Practice it with your kids. Practice it with your spouse. Go to lunch or just meet in the office and practice with your teammate, or set up a Zoom and just practice with your teammate and go back and forth. No matter how long you've been doing this, scripting is always a thing that we can practice and get better on. And you got a whole team of people to practice with.
Exactly. And great point. And just like other agents have done, if you have an opportunity to bring an agent along for an experience on a list appointment, or a property that's super unique that you want their advice on, well, I'm not really sure about how to advise my client with X. Can you come look and see? Like, just, we're all in this together to collaborate. So I think that any time we have an opportunity to help each other out as far as improving our business, because we all practice our business differently.
Give your teammates the opportunity to learn from you, because you're going to learn from them too. I'm going to give another example too. Ellen asked me to run comps for a property that she's got an appointment today, I think. Good luck, by the way, Ellen. And it's a little difficult. And she said, well, I wanted to ask Janine to do it, but I think she's going to do an open house. I don't know if that vibes or whatever. And I said, you know, I understand where you're coming from, but I said, if Janine's doing an open house, she should be running comps anyways, because she wants to be able to tell a potential buyer
Yep.
how she thinks it's priced. What I did say to Ellen was, I know she knew exactly what I was talking about, was you can talk about comps with her, just don't give her any insight into what your seller is thinking or what your seller needs. That's the line you don't want to cross, right? But you can still talk about comps, because you would talk to them if she brought an offer, right? And you might see, she might be able to share something. So use your team to help you. And use multiple people on your team, because someone might look at it slightly different and it might be something everybody else was missing.
Yep.
And it's happened to all of us. Take advantage, and hopefully it'll be really helpful for you. And hopefully that was helpful too, Ellen. Kind of looks like a great list, and I hope you can get it. So just to kind of recap this last page, practice scripts, have agents pair up and role play. Again, you can do it with your spouse, you can do it with your kids, you can do it with each other, and different scenarios. Hesitant buyer, seller unsure about listing now. You can talk about really difficult things like pricing correctly, etc. Share your success stories. We've done some of that. Always like to hear how people overcome objections or solve problems, right? We've got kind of this cheat sheet stuff. If you want to check out the resources, Google Drive, there's some good stuff in there that you can always access, and I encourage you to check it out. Feedback and improvement. You can record yourself and then go back and watch it. One thing, I was on a prospecting call or something in the kitchen a week or two ago, and Amanda was like, "You sure said a lot," and I don't remember saying it at all. And I will tell everybody else when I'm listening to them on the phone that they say a lot. So to get called out, I was like, well, shit, I better tighten up, right? Didn't even hear it. It's good to do it around people so they can give you that feedback. Not to put you in your place or to be negative, but be like, hey, lock in. You might not even realize you're doing this.
Matt will yell down to me at least once a day, "That sucked." And I was like, yeah, thanks for, how do I make that better? So yeah, I hear
I get
that.
it.
I'm being called out.
I could never do that.
That's the,
I don't know how you do that all day long.
April, you need to tell him that you need the pieces of bread for the compliment sandwich, right?
Right.
Not just the crap in the middle.
Hilarious.
I need something helpful, a criticism, and then something
Yeah.
helpful, right?
How about, "That was great. Way to get that appointment." No, nothing.
Well, if you close for the appointment, it couldn't have been that bad, right?
That's true. That's true.
But feedback and improvement are they go hand in hand. Celebrate those wins. One thing that I love about Charles would always talk about is how he'll experiment. He'll try different scripting with different people, and see what he's having success with and what's not working so well. I encourage that as well. So hopefully some takeaways that have been helpful. This has been a great discussion, I think. Words that you choose can shape how your clients feel about their decisions. Assuming the close can simplify the process for your clients, and it also positions you, as confident, capable. And very small shifts in phrasing can have a really big impact on your results. And one thing that I have said from the beginning of this venture is every year I want all of my agents to do one of two things: get more results with the same amount of work, or get the same results with less work. Up to you, depending on what your goals are. But the only way you're going to do that is to continue getting better and to convert at a higher rate. And talking about conversion, that's going from closing 50% of the people you meet to 75% of the people you meet. And think about how big a difference that can make in what you're trying to accomplish in your goals in this business. If you can even change your conversion rate by 10%.
On that note, if you don't win the client, I think it's a really good idea, and I'm not really good at this, but I should ask for feedback about why they didn't choose you, or what you could have done differently, or why you didn't get the 5-star review, or whatever, so that you can shift moving forward and change your practice so that that doesn't happen again with the next lead.
Can also help you see some of those ways you're perceived that you don't realize
100%.
being
Yeah.
perceived.
Yeah. Yeah.
Only way
Perception
to do that
is
to ask
reality.
for feedback.
Yep.
That's right, to me, 100%.
Doug, I was going to share two books that I've read in the past. If you're having a hard time converting people, if you're having a hard time getting business from your sphere, if you're having a hard time getting repeat business, everybody in the triangle, I think 2 years ago, I bought this book for everybody. Exactly What to Say. You can get this on Amazon for like $12. Make sure you get the real estate agent's version. They took the original book and got with a couple brokers and did a real estate version. The other one, and this is on a bunch of business lists for best
Got
books.
it.
How to Win Friends and Influence People. This sounds so corny, but if you read this, I guarantee you will read some of this stuff and you will learn something from it, or you will recognize things that you're not doing that you should, or you're recognizing things that other people do that drive you nuts. And you're like, I hope I'm not making people feel the way this stuff makes me feel when he talks to me like that, when she talks to me like that. You can get both of these books on Amazon right now for like 21 bucks, 21 bucks total. So, if you're having a hard time getting repeat business or sphere or converting people, be honest with yourself and think, what can I do to improve? I'm leaving money on the table. Somebody else is taking business that I should have. Read the books.
Continuing education is important. By the way, I signed up for my continuing ed yesterday. Make sure that you do that. But I'm talking about continuing ed that you're interested in and not that you're forced to do. So, look at these resources to help make you better. And again, practice. It's like working out. You're not just going to show up and max your bench press or whatever. You got to practice and be mindful and come prepared. And you'll convert higher. You'll make more with less effort. And who doesn't want to do that? That's my goal for you. All right. You guys will get the email when this goes out. I'll attach the link to the spreadsheet. It'll also be in the Google Drive if you want to check it out later on for your own reference. But I hope this was helpful. It was really a great discussion. I thought probably one of our better ones in quite a while, and that's really my goal kind of going forward. Any suggestions or topics that you guys would like to talk about in the coming weeks?
Nothing I can think of right this minute.
Well, I'm always open for suggestions. Of course, I'll come up with some, but I'm always like to make sure that we're talking about things that are relevant to your interests or your needs or what's going on in your business or that you see other people doing. All you got to do is send me a text. I'll get it on the calendar. All right. So just always keep in
Thank
mind.
you.
Give it some thought.
All right. Well, I hope you guys have a great day. Coach folks, I'm still looking at the calendar. I will get with you about our goal setting meeting. Thanks for your patience. I thought I was going to be better by now. I'm still dealing with a little bit of the crud, so we'll get it figured out, and I'll be in touch as soon as I can about that. Okay?
Yeah,
Kids are
definitely don't give it to
big
us.
tomorrow.
No, I'm not trying to bring it down to you,
Yeah.
and I really don't want to do it virtually. But if we get to the point where it's just
Mm.
taking too long to schedule, we will do it that way because I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I think it's important to get this stuff in place. But I'll be in touch with you about it.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
take care. Get better.
Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Holler if you need me. All right.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks. Bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.